Lawmakers are getting ready for what could be a showdown this week on Capitol Hill. After returning from their 10-day recess, Congress must renew at least temporary funding for the Department of Homeland Security, which expires on Friday. But some Republicans are holding out in an effort to block President Obama's executive action on immigration. Joining us now, Brett Baer, the anchor of Special Report here on Fox News Channel. Brett, here we go again. Thought we had this dealt with in the last budget. They extended funding for the Department of Homeland Security until the end of February. Here it is, the end of February, and nobody seems to know what to do. What are the options here?
Well, remember, John, and good morning, they started with the House Republicans funding the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, all the way through September. But the funding specifically for the immigration actions taken by the president was removed. And that bill was sent over to the Senate. Well, Senate Democrats said this is a non-starter for us. We are not doing that. So that's where the battle happened. Right now, that bill is still stalled in the Senate. And as you said, funding ends at the end of this week for Homeland Security. It's important to note that even if funding lapses, that 80 to 85% of DHS employees show up for work. It's just they don't get paid at that time, even though they're deemed essential. They get back pay once it's all figured out. The key thing here is this federal judge ruling saying that the immigration actions, the executive actions of the president should not go forward at this time, may provide an off-ramp for lawmakers to say, let's fund it for the short term, see what happens legally.
Yeah, because there has been that court ruling from the judge in Texas who said that the president's actions that have upset so many Republicans, especially in Congress, those actions, according to the judge, are not constitutional. That is yet to be decided.
Exactly, and the administration says they're going to challenge that and push for a federal court in the Fifth Circuit to stop that order that just came out from the federal judge in Texas. In other words, let them go forward with the executive actions. That has to play out legally, but on Capitol Hill behind me, they're going to have to either fund or not fund this week. Some
interesting dynamics on this question of the AUMF, the authorization to use military force. The president wants new language, new authorization from Congress to take on ISIS, but there are all kinds of questions. Some Republicans think the president isn't going far enough when he asks for a 3-year authorization. Some Democrats, and some of the party lines get blurred, really, on what people want here. Big questions, thorny questions ahead, Brett.
Yeah, and how it's phrased is obviously very important. The way they put up the proposal puts handcuffs, essentially, on the president. The president's own request for authorization on the use of military force against ISIS handcuffs the executive branch. And Republicans say that's not necessary and shouldn't happen. Democrats are concerned about a never-ending war, but many of them don't like this 3-year time frame that the administration has set. So the signals that are being sent from the administration, John, are that there will be flexibility here on the phrasing, and that there may have to be some kind of U.S. troops on the ground, even if it's special operations troops working with indigenous forces in Iraq and Syria.
Meantime, Congress is sending the Keystone Pipeline bill over to the president's desk, and he shows every sign of being willing to veto it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely headed for a veto, should it go there. It's expected to. Remember that this president has not had a lot of vetoes, excuse me, because in essence, as a Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid was a ice hockey goal for legislation, a goalie, you know, preventing the pucks from getting past the Democratic-controlled Senate. Well, now that it's a Republican Senate, you will see more bills that get to the president's desk, and he'll likely have to issue vetoes. But remember also that the Republicans only hold 54 seats. They need 60 to get a lot of this legislation through, and some of that's just not going to happen.
Interesting to see what the public reaction will be, assuming the president does go ahead with that veto threat on Keystone. Brett Baer, we'll see you tonight on Special Report. Thanks for joining us this morning.